Hello everyone, welcome to Figma's beginner course. In this video, you are supposed to learn the basics of Figma. Alright, you will see a screen like this when you first install the Figma software. This page is called Home, which consists of different parts. In the Recent section, you can see the files that have recently been executed, and Figma software has placed a number of files here by default. And if you place the mouse pointer on any of the files, an icon will be seen. The icons that are in form of a pen are actually related to Figma files, and the pencil icons are related to FigJam. In this section, in addition to recently viewed, you can access shared files and shared projects. Also, from this section, you can specify how your files can be displayed based on your last visit or based on the file creation date or alphabetically. Also, you can specify how to display the items in this section either as a grid or as a list. Okay, we have some icons on the left side which I will explain. From this section, you can access the general information of the program, where you can see your profile information. From the logout section, you can exit the program, and from the theme section, you can change the theme of the software. By default, the theme is set to system theme, but you can choose dark or light mode from this part. But there are other items in the search box section on the left sidebar where you can search anything you need from this section, and you can see the recently viewed files from the recent section. You can also see files related to teams in the Your Team section, and in the draft section, you can see the files you saved in the draft. In the favorites section, you can see the files that you have added to your favorites, and the teams section is related to your teams. To create a new file, by clicking on this icon, you can specify whether your file should be created in the teams section or in the draft folder. Also, in addition to this section, you can click on the plus sign here to enter the page of creating a new file. Finally, as the last point in the Home section, in addition to drag and drop, you can click on the Import button and import the desired file from your system into the software. Alright, I want to create a new file. To do this, I click on the plus sign from this section. As you can see, we enter a new section. From here, we can create a new file for Figma projects. And from this part, we can define a new board for FigJam projects. Remember that from Create File In, you can specify whether your project file should be created in the Team section or in the Draft section. So I select the Drafts folder and click the New Design File icon. Okay, we created a new file and entered the Figma workspace. If you look carefully, we have the parts here on the left side called Search, Layers, and Assets. And on the right side, we have two items, Design and Prototype. From the Design section, you can access the features of any item you choose. And from the Layers, Assets, and Page, you can access the created layers, the assets, as well as the pages you have created. One point you should note is that in one Figma file, you can create different pages that help you categorize your projects. Now, let's go to the introduction of other parts of Figma workspace. In this range, we have the toolbar, which is related to Figma tools. Here you can see the Move tool to move items and the Scale tool to change the scale of items. Also, the Frame tool is to create frames in different dimensions. The Section tool is to divide the parts that are needed, and the Slice tool to cut a range of a design while exporting the file. But the tools in this part are related to drawing tools. You can draw rectangle and square shapes from the Rectangle tool. From the Line tool, you can draw different lines. and the arrow section is for drawing arrow shapes, and the ellipse tool is for drawing circle and oval shapes. Also, the polygon tool is for drawing polygonal shapes, and the next one is for drawing the star shapes. The last item is place image/video, where you can insert the image or video you want into the Figma workspace. Here we have the pen tool, which is used to draw paths, and the pencil tool works similarly to the pen. The text tool is for writing texts, and the resources tool is for accessing components, plugins, and widgets. The hand tool is for navigation in the Figma workspace, and the comment tool is for commenting on different parts of the project, which is usually used by users for team projects or when you share the project. Here you can view your own profile. The share section is for file sharing, and from the preview section you can see the output of your work when you use the prototype. From this section we can access zoom items. You can see zoom in, zoom out, zoom to fit, and other items. Also from this section you can access other options. For example, we have the ruler. If I select it, the rulers will be displayed in the workspace. And I can disable the ruler from this part. Or I can simply use the shortcut key. On the right side of each of these items, their shortcut keys are displayed. For instance, to be able to use the ruler, I just need to select the Shift and R keys on the keyboard. And if I do that now, you'll see that the ruler is hidden. Okay, the area you can see here is called canvas. And the project you are doing is exactly in this area. But if no item is selected, you can change the color of the canvas according to your taste from this section. So let's go to a small project to better understand the concepts and tools. So I create a new frame here from the frame section. Pay attention that the Figma software provides us with a number of frames by default, and you can see the categories of frames in this list. For example, for phone, these frames are made by default. For example, for iPhone 14 and 15 Pro Max, or you can access these frames for iPhone 8 and other parts as well. Or even for social media, you have access to different frames here. For instance, if you want to create a design for a post on Twitter, you can choose the Twitter post frame from this section. Alright, from here, I select the first item in the phone section, which is iPhone 14 and 15 Pro Max, to create a frame with the dimensions of the iPhone 15 screen. As you can see, in the layers section, we can see the layer related to the frame we have created. And in order to change the name of the layer, just click on this part twice to activate the select mode and enter your desired name. For example, I will write design. Well, the name of the frame is changed in this way. Now, in order to zoom in and zoom out in the Figma workspace, just hold the Control key and scroll down or up to zoom out and zoom in respectively. Okay, let's go to the drawing tool. Here I select the rectangle tool. If I hold the Shift key while drawing the shape, the square mode will be created. And if I release the Shift key, I can draw a rectangle with the desired dimensions. On the right side and from the design section, you can access the features of this shape. From the X part, you can change the scale of the shape in the X axis. And from the Y part, you can change the scale of the shape in the Y axis. From the width and height section, you can see the width and height of the shape. And from this section, you can also change the size of your shape. In the rotation section, you can rotate the shape, and from the corner radius section, you can round the corners of the shape like this. If I click on this item, I can manage each corner separately. For example, if I enter the number 50, only this corner will be rounded. Very well. From the fill section, you can give the desired color to the shape, and from here, you can determine what your color mode will be. If you choose the solid mode, it is monochromatic. From the gradient mode, you can create a gradient, and you can add several points as desired, or delete these items by pressing the delete button. For example, I want to give a gradient like this. In this way, I can apply changes from this section. From here, you can use this slider to specify the color range, and using the other slider, you can increase or decrease the opacity of the shape. There are other items here to add an image or video to the shape. Well, we also have the stroke section where you can create a border around the shapes, and similar to fill, you can change its color from this part. And from this part, you can increase or decrease the thickness of the stroke. And by clicking on this item, you can specify which parts have strokes and which parts don't. The all mode is for adding a stroke to all parts. If I select the top, the stroke will be created only on the top part of the shape, and if I choose the right mode, for example, the stroke will be created only on the right side. And all mode is for adding the stroke to all parts. And from this part, you can specify whether your stroke will be created inside the shape, outside the shape, or in the middle of the shape border. You can also click on the minus item to remove the stroke and click on the plus item to add it. Alright, I've resized this rectangle this way to make it look like this. Now I want to round these two corners. For this, I click on this item and enter the number 50 in this section and the same number in this section. Then I go to the line tool and draw a line like this here. From the stroke part, I change the color of the line like this. I set the stroke to number 2, and from here I can round the beginning and the end of my line. Now I want to place it in line with this artboard. To do this, you can use the align items. If you select align left, this line will stick to the left, align right will stick to the right, align top will stick to the top, and align bottom will stick to the bottom. Align vertical center will put it in the center of the artboard, and align horizontal center puts the line along the vertical axis. Okay, I draw this line and transfer it to this part. To be able to make a similar copy of an item, just press the Ctrl and D keys. As you can see from the layers section, the first layer is related to the first line, and the second layer is related to the second line that I copied. And now I change its color to this one. And I also reduce its size. Now I go to the circle tool and draw a circle. From the fill section and from the document colors section, I can access the colors that I have used recently. Here I choose the same color that I have considered. Alright, I go to the circle tool again and draw a circle like this. I want to align this circle with the vertical axis. So I choose align horizontal center, and I'll make it a little bigger. Now let's go to the fill. I want to give a gradient, so I click on the gradient and change this item to this color, and the color of this item as well. Alright, I go to the triangle tool or polygonal tool and draw a triangle here. By holding the Shift key and dragging, I rotate the triangle by 90 degrees, and from this part I can round its corners. Now, I will make it a little bigger in size, then I move it to this section. And from the fill section, I change its color to white. Now I want to create a shadow effect. To do this, I first select the circle shape, and from the effect section, you can apply all kinds of effects to your shape. The first item is related to the inner shadow, which is used to create a shadow inside the shape, and you can access the settings of this section by clicking on this icon. By changing the X value, you can move the shadow in the horizontal axis, and by changing the Y value, you can move it in the vertical axis. And by changing the blur value, you can increase or decrease the amount of blur. From this section, you can change the color of the shadow and change the opacity from this section. The next item here is drop shadow, which is opposite of the inner shadow and is used to create the outer shadow of the shape, and you can adjust it from this part. So I take the value of X to be 0 and the value of Y to be 6. I increase the blur, and from this part I change the color of the shadow. We have a tool in this part called eyedropper. If you click on it, you can sample the colors of the program workspace. Alright, I click on this area to change the shadow color like this. I'll set its opacity to 50% and increase the blur. Very well, I go to the polygon tool and draw a triangle here and rotate it. Round its corners and change its color to something like this. Of course, you can enter your desired color code from the hex field. For instance, I enter the value 2020 to apply such a color to my design. Then I go to the line tool and draw a line here. From this part, I can enter its width more precisely. For example, I set 20 and its stroke value to 2. And from this part, I can round the beginning and end of it. Now I want these two to be in the same line. I select both, and from here I select the Align Vertical Center option so that they are both aligned. We can also group items. For this, it is enough to select the items, and by pressing the Ctrl and G keys, the selected items will be placed in a group. If you take a look at the Layers section, your layer is created here. I will take a copy of this shape and rotate it. I select both and put them in one group. And from the Align Horizontal Center section, I align both items along the vertical axis. Okay, I select all the shapes here and move them to this part. I also put this item a little higher. Then I go to the Text tool. Here I write the title of the music, for example, World Music. As you can see on the right side for the text, we have a number of items where you can specify the font. From this part, you can change the font weight. For example, I put it on bold. From here, you can specify the font size, which has a number of sizes by default. But you can manually enter the font yourself. For example, if I enter the value 60, the font size will change like this. Or if I enter 40, the changes will be applied in this way. I click on the Align Horizontal Center option so that it is in the middle, and I move it up using the up arrow key. I go to the Rectangle tool again and I draw a rectangle here like this. I round its corners, and using this item, I can handle each corner separately. I set the bottom two items to 0 so that only the top parts are rounded. I will select the Text tool again and click on this area and I write lyrics. Very well, I will set its font size to 16. I will adjust it in this way and transfer it to this part. I pick the line tool again and draw a line here. I set its width to 10. I put its stroke weight on number 2, and I round the beginning and end of it this way. I hold the Shift button and rotate it 45 degrees. Then I duplicate it by pressing the Ctrl and D keys. I rotate it like this to create an arrow shape. I select both and put them in a group, set them up like this, and transfer them to this section. I select both the arrow and the text items and adjust them from this part, and I put them in a group using the Ctrl and G keys. I move them around to adjust them, and also move these items up a bit. And I can also add some items here. I select the text tool and click here and write the number 126. Select it and set the point weight to regular. And for the font size, 16 is suitable. I take a duplicate and transfer it to this part and consider its value as 302. Here, this shape needs to be adjusted, so I'm aligning it from here. In order to put an image in this shape, I first select it and click on the Place Image and Video option from this section and choose the image that I want. As you can see, this image appears next to the mouse pointer, and by clicking on this area, my image will be inserted into the shape. Alright, in this video we got to know the basics of Figma and designed a music player together.